INDYCAR is back. What can I say? Last night at Worldwide Technology Raceways, INDYCAR had one of, if not the best races that INDYCAR's had in like 5 years. That was an absolute banging race. You love to see it. That was tremendous. The whole thing about it not being that it won't be able to pass, it's not going to be a good race, that completely failed. INDYCAR had one of, if not the greatest race in recent memory. I mean, you could pass, the way those guys on the start passed, I was just hoping to see like that the whole race, and it did. It did. You just love to see it. I mean, unfortunately, people might look at this race as more of a negative than the positive, which is really unfortunate because later in this video, we're going to have to talk about the negatives. But for now, let's just focus on the positives. I mean, they were able to pass in the second lane, which I love to see. I love to see a short track with 2 lanes. That is what you want on short track oval racing for INDYCAR. You had 2 lanes that worked just as good as the first lane. Brilliant. I mean, that was awesome. You could see guys go on the outside. They could cut over and even go on the inside. I mean, the racing was spectacular. It wasn't just like that on the restarts. It was like that the whole race. Now, unfortunately, the yellows were about 20 years long, but it was sweepers cleaning up the second lane to cars could still use it. So if the yellows are going to have to be a little longer for them to clean up the second lane, so be it. That's completely fine with me. It made it for better racing. It made it more exciting. I freaking loved it. So unfortunately, now is where we might have to talk about some negatives. But before we dive into some negatives, I've left out some few positives. I loved how they were at the start of the race. There was different strategies. At one point, it looked like Marcus Ericsson could win it going off strategy, or the Scott Dixon strategy didn't work. If it would have stayed green, I think you would have seen a very, very different result than what we got. But it didn't stay green because unfortunately, we had the wreck with Catherine Legan and Carpenter at the beginning. They reminded us that they existed by crashing. We had the yellow with the Connor Daly, and that was just unfortunate to see. But overall, Connor Daly drove a very good race, I'd like to say. Huge golf clap for Connor Daly. He drove brilliantly. Really impressed by Connor Daly. And then we had the Kivett Simpson. I mean, we had those yellows. But then other than that, and then we had the New Garden Spin. But I mean, that really, is that a yellow? But I mean, it did bring out the yellow, and it did kind of ruin the strategy. And then it took out all the other contenders for the win, because you had 4 cars that could win the race. They were dominant. The 3 Penske's, New Garden, McLaughlin Power, and Malukas. Those cars left the field, and when New Garden spun, I feel like it took out all the other contenders, really, with the different strategies. But that's New Garden spin didn't really where the yellows came out. The yellows came out when Will Power and David Malukas crashed into each other. And let's just take a look at it real quick.
Power. This could be effectively for the win. Side by side with Taylor. They touch. And he goes around. Heavy damage for David Malukas. Battling for Will Power for what might have been the win. And it ends in tears for Malukas.
And this is an interesting caution with only 2 cars on the lead lap. Comes down, takes a little bit of air away. That was tight.
I think Will Power really...
So I don't know about you guys, but in my opinion, that wreck is 110% on Will Power. I mean, those guys were effectively racing for the win of the race. I mean, the cars ahead of them were having to save fuel. They weren't. They were just running flat out to the end. I mean, those 2 were going tooth and nail for the win, and Power knew that. So when Kirkwood, the lapped car, was defending for his teammate Colin Hurdup, which effectively had the lead of the race, but had to go really slow, so Power and Malukas were going to go by. Kirkwood was blocking Power. Malukas caught up, puts it on the inside. He even says in the interview, which I will play after this, how he was letting off the gas, leaving all the space he needed, and then Power came down and took him out. So in my opinion, I don't know how Will Power didn't get an avoidable contact for that. I think INDYCAR, we need to ask what is an avoidable contact, because that was avoidable contact. So let's just take a look at this David Malukas interview. It honestly is it's crushing for him, but let's just take a look at it.
The previous caution, David Malukas was involved, and he just told me that he's okay. He's been checked and released from the INDYCAR medical unit. Was there anything that you would have done differently in that scenario?
Honestly, probably not. I had a run, I set it up, I went down the inside, and, I still need to look over the video to see how it was, but, from my side, I don't know, I just felt like it came in. Yeah, I mean, Power just came by and screamed at me. I mean, I don't even know if he got a penalty there, but I braked, I slowed down, I gave him as much room as I could, other than the curb, and he gave me a tap, and that was kind of it. Like, there's not much else I can do. He's screaming at me. Man, you have a whole second lane you can go up there. So, yeah, I would still continue to do the move. I thought it was a good move. I gave him the space. We slowed down. If he would have just stayed in that second lane, we would have been perfectly fine. We were side by side, and you come down, and you're going to hit me like that. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. We had a really good race, good car. I mean, yeah, it sucks.
I was just going to ask, moving forward to Portland, you had incredible speed all weekend. Are there positives you could take from the weekend?
Yeah. Sorry. It was just such a good weekend for us. I really wanted that result. Yeah, look, it was Toronto was a good result, and this was going to be another good one. Car was really good, and yeah, we'll carry this into Portland. It'll be good.
You could tell.
And then if you were noticing on that interview how it said red flag, well, it's because we have to talk about the Joseph Newgarden incident next. But one last thing to top off the Malukas Power incident. Power, you should not have screamed at him. I mean, Malukas really did nothing wrong. I just feel bad for David Malukas. But that's really all I got to say about it. Just should have a penalty. Should not have screamed at him. And Power should get fined for flipping off his teammates in live television and screaming at Malukas. He should get a fine. Now let's talk about Newgarden going too slow on the yellow. First of all, let me just show you what I'm talking about, and then we can talk about it.
Really slow to bring him to speed. This is a crash with Rossi and Power.
In the back, you see Jack Harvey as well. Connor Daly gets some debris. This might cause a red flag, guys. This might cause a red flag. They don't want to finish this race under caution. You're not going to clean up 3 cars in 9 laps.
IndyCar has time.
Looking to see if we can see a green light. There it is. It's on. What's the rule? Does he have to go immediately? Can anyone else?
Everyone can go once the green light is on.
Which we see Pelot come to the inside. That's allowed.
Yeah, what you can cut. You can't come out of line once the. You can't come out of line until the green light comes on.
Look at that. Pelot escapes again. If he had stayed in line, he is collected in that.
He's probably into the back of whoever was in front, and then collected by Power getting hit.
With this incident, I definitely do think Joseph Newgarden did back the field up way too much. Backing the field up and getting a later, like starting the restart late, is completely okay. But when you're still going caution speed, when that green box, on that second time they showed it, when that is green, everyone can go green, and Newgarden did not go. I don't think McLaughlin went either. And then you just saw Rossi straight into the back of Will Power, and it caused a huge crash. I mean, I might probably make a video about this, but does IndyCar have a problem with red flags at the end of racing and just crazy crap happening the last 10 laps? I think they kind of do. That's probably going to be a video for another day. But we need to talk about a driver who had a stellar race. And two. Connor Daly, let's just get this one out of the way. Drove a great race. He didn't crash. He finished 13th, I believe. Drove a great race. I was really impressed by Connor Daly. But the other guy I need to talk about is Linus Lundqvist. Drove an amazing race. Got P3, second podium of the year. It's his first full-time season IndyCar. I mean, you guys know how much I think he's amazing. He just drove the wheels off the car. I was super impressed by him. We know with the Ganassi rumors, I mean, how many cars are they going to cut? Are they going to partner with Shank? We know what's going on there. Linus Lundqvist, I think, deserves to keep his Ganassi seat. He deserves to stay in IndyCar. There's a lot of rumors about him right now. Linus is proving why he is a top-tier driver. And personally, I think Linus would benefit if he wasn't at Ganassi. And I think if he went to a smaller team, I actually think he would thrive. He reminds me of a lot of Santino Ferrucci. And I think he would do better in a smaller team, and maybe later in his career, get back into a bigger team, and I think he would do well. But I think for the foreseeable future, he needs to be in a smaller team, and I think Hopefully that's where he goes, although I love if he stayed at Ganassi. Either way, but Linus Lundqvist drove a brilliant race. Newgarden should have gotten a penalty. Power should have gotten a penalty. I think that the stewards are making very bad calls this year. I think they're too soft on Penske. I think that's a little weird how the two main crashes of the race, Penske drivers caused it, didn't get a penalty. So I don't know how to feel about it. Make sure you're subscribed, follow my Instagram, and see ya.